Hello, welcome back to our first class since we're out of lockdown. And today, a 60-minute lead practice. We'll begin in Vrasana. And if you look here, we take our blocks. You can have 1, 2, 3, depending on what is most comfortable for your knees. And you sit at the forward lip of your blocks in portrait, so that the sitting bones are towards the edge, the big toe and the inner ankle engaged into the side of the blocks, the thigh bones parallel. And important to just take your hand behind your back and just check that the lumbar spine is in its natural curvature, so we're neither collapsing into flexion nor overemphasizing extension of the lumbar spine. So we want to find a natural, relaxed position. So beginning in Virasana, you'll notice as I come to sit, I take the hands to the top of the inner thighs, spin the top of the inner thighs in, send the sitting bones back, and then roll onto the tops of the sitting bones, releasing the arms, and then resting the hands wherever you like in your lap, whatever's comfortable for you. Allow the eyes to close. Let's take a few breaths now, settling your attention at first to where you touch ground, from the knee to the toenail, and everything in between. From this foundation, travel to the foundation of the sitting bones, and feel the elevation of the back of your skull as you allow the back brain to float up and the shoulder blades to float down. Allow the breastbone to float up. Allow your waist, the weight of your pelvis to settle down into your seat. Release your arms down alongside, maintaining awareness of our arrangement of form. Bring fluid breath to guide movement of the form. On the inhalation, taking the arms out and up, turning the palms towards each other, around shoulder width or wider. Exhale, open your wings out and slowly float the hands down. The fingers may touch earth, may not. On the inhalation, open your wings. On the exhalation, allow your wings to open and settle back down alongside. Follow your breath, 2 more breaths. And on the inhalation, expand into the space that surrounds you. On the exhalation, come back to your center, just below the navel. Allow the soft, sibilant sound of Ujjayi breath to become a feature to your breath cycle. This time, let the hands find each other and float the palms down in front of the heart space. Bow the head to your hands. If you'd like to make a sankalpa or set an intention today, do so now. As you inhale, press your palms together. Let your head float up. Exhale, open your hands. As you come forward off of your seat now, take your blocks from behind and place them in front. You can start with 3, and we can remove blocks as and when feels appropriate. Come to an all-4 position. Knees underneath the hips, heels of the hands underneath the shoulders. Once again, find that natural curvature of the spine, which may present itself slightly different in each orientation. On an exhalation now, send the sitting bones back, lightly pressing from your hands, lengthening through your waist. And then notice where you need your blocks, drawing them to a point where you can rest your forehead while keeping your arms long. Spread your palms. On an inhalation, lightly pressing down through the front of the feet, drawing against your sticky mat with your palms, float up to all 4s. On the exhalation, sending the inner groins back, lengthening through the waist. Send the sitting bones back, 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 and then lightly rest the forehead once again for the pause at the end of the exhalation. Inhaling, coming up to all 4s. Draw the navel inwards now as you exhale, sending the sitting bones back, retaining the natural curvature of your lumbar region as much as is possible through the cycle of movement. Towards the end of that movement, as you continue to breathe, flowing through this vinyasa, notice how the curvature of the lumbar spine, as you send the sitting bones further back, notice how this curve starts to enter in some bodies, differently in others. If you have a tendency, when you come back with your sitting bones, to round and take flexion in the lumbar spine, emphasize sending the sitting bone and the crease of the hip back, and try to keep this aspect of the spine's character present. Noticing how it does change naturally through the course of the movement. On your next inhalation, coming up to all 4s, and on an exhalation, move into cat stretch. Tucking the tailbone a little, looking to the space between the inner thighs. On the inhalation, move at the pelvis first, head last, come forward into dog tail. On the exhalation, moving back into cat stretch. Now vary the distance that you travel forward and backward. Sometimes you can add a centimeter or 2. Other times you could perhaps stay more static and just move the spine through extension and flexion. Extension like a back bend, flexion more of a rounding of the spine. 2 more breaths in this way. Keep the jaws relaxed, eyes soft, pelvis moves first, head last. And on the inhalation that brings you back towards all 4s, remain in all 4s. Separate your knees. Join your big toes towards each other. Send your sitting bones back. Send your sitting bones back. Now, before you take your forehead down towards the blocks, keep your hands forward, front spine long, and we'll just add a little action. And this was actually introduced to me by the delightful Françoise Friedman, little micro movements that she promotes, and I have found to be tremendously helpful. Little micro movement. It's not a forceful bounce, but it's just sending a subtle message from the hands, through the arms, through the integrated shoulder joint, down towards the pelvis. Just like a little gentle movement into those joints. Just feel that elasticity, that buoyancy around the joint, and then stay more linear until eventually become still. And at this point, you may notice that you can remove some, if not all, of your platform, ideally keeping the shoulders at or slightly above the level of the hips, while maintaining length through the arms, through your waist. Settle the pelvis back towards your heels. 2 or 3 more breaths. Imagine your breath inflating the buttocks like great balloons. Your buttocks blossom. Then relax the elbows. If the arms are still reaching, relax the elbows. And slowly slide the hands back towards you. Sitting up onto your heels, keep your knees apart. Remove your blocks from your mat. Observe first. From this position, with what would be more or less the alignment of all fours, but with the knees apart, tuck your toes under. And keep the inner heel and the ball of the big toe toward each other. Then, on an exhalation, again, being careful not to move up in flexion, so you want to have an anterior tilt of the pelvis. Send the inner groins up, suck the inner knees towards each other, press away through your inner heel, and lengthen up. And really notice how this influences the tissues in your legs. Don't force this now. Just explore this action as you go in. And then, once again, we come down, separate, send the pelvis back with the toes tucked under and repeat. So, hands forward, toes tucked under, knees apart. Send the inner groins back as if you wanted to send your inner groins back towards your inner ankles. Your inner groins back towards your inner ankles. And then, as you lift the pelvis, lift the inner groins, suck the inner knees towards each other, press the inner heel away, lengthening from hands all the way up to your hips and beyond. 2 more breaths. And inhale, come down, parting the knees a little. Once again, separate the knees apart, keep the toes tucked under, send the pelvis back. Then, inhaling here once more, integrate the shoulder joint so we can send the message from the hand directly up to the sitting bone. On an exhalation, lift the inner groins, press the inner heel away, suck the inner knees towards each other, press away from the inner heel towards the ground, add the outer heel, widen across the collarbones, activate your hands, 2 more breaths, then walk your feet to the outer edge of the mat. Line up the big toe out towards the outer edge of the mat. Then turn the heels out about 5 to 10 degrees. And once again, send the message from the hands through the integrated shoulder up towards the hips, the inner groins.
Notice how this is influencing the tissues of your legs once again. Last breath here. Then inhale, come forwards. Lower your knees to hip joint distance apart. Bring your feet alongside, behind the knee. Exhale, send the pelvis back. Come into child's pose. Now you can have child's pose with the thigh bones parallel this time, with the arms maybe in front, stacked wrists, or for some people, not myself, because I don't like to really have this forward flexion, I tend to have my hands in front. Notice how the front of your thighs restrict your breathing in comparison to when the thighs are separate. Where does that influence of expansion as the inhalation enters the body, the diaphragm contracts, moves down, where does the hydrostatic pressure in the abdominal region, where does it send an influence that you can sense around your waist and your hips and your lower back? Okay, 2 more breaths here. Right. And from here, take your hands to the ground, press down to lightly float up with the head and the shoulders. Take a moment, just notice. There. Bring the hands forward again. Lift your sitting bones up. Tuck your toes under. Come back to sit on your heels. But then bring your fingers to the ground and lift your knees up. So your feet are about hip joint distance apart. And just balance on your toes for a moment. Then ground your palms in front of you. On an exhalation, again, tune back into the inner groins, ground your hands, and on an exhalation, let the head float down, let the inner groins float up. And lift the inner groins up, stay up on the toes and the balls of the forefoot, and then slowly send the heels back. As you ground the heels, let the hands float towards you. Then, like a roller blind, bend your knees, let the weight of your pelvis move down, and let the weight of your head float up, and engaging the deep abdominal muscles as you slowly come up. Keep that deep engagement at the front of the spine. Roll the shoulders open. Open your palms. And just take a few breaths. When you're ready, walk up to the top end of your mat. And bring your feet toward each other. So for Samastiti, some like big toes together, heels slightly apart. Some like to have their feet a little wider. But keep it no more than an inch or 2 at most. Sense into those big feet. Externally rotate at your shoulders. Turn your palms to face front. On an inhalation, open your arms out to the sides. On an exhalation, flex your knees. Flexing at the hips, bring your hands towards each other, past the heart, they part, fold forward. On an inhalation, lengthen the front spine and slide the heels of the hands up to the tops of your shins. On an exhalation, send your right leg back. And having sent your right leg back, gather your blocks and bring them to the height that is appropriate for you. Again, we're looking to find as much length in the spine as possible,
without creating any flexion or rounding. So we want to, almost as if we were standing, maintaining that same alignment. Then from here, on an inhalation, crouching tiger, sense into your back leg, ground at the foot, sense into your front foot, and from this steady foundation, inhale, take your tiger's claws, open, X. Then on the inhalation, bring the hands up to the shoulders, and on the exhalation, send the palms away. On the inhalation, scoop the hands back towards the kidneys, reach up. On the exhalation, settle into this buoyant, expansive warrior pose. On your next exhalation, draw the elbows to shoulder height, turn the palms towards each other, fold forward, touch down, remove your blocks, ground your hands, bend your right knee, and keeping the right knee in flexion, send the inner groins back, stepping your left foot behind the line of the right foot, and then the right foot back to meet it. About hip joint distance apart. Downward facing dog pose. Check into your hands. Awaken your hands and fingers. Keep space across the upper back. And I'd suggest taking an extra couple of inches back. Explore taking your feet a little bit further back and just noticing how that influences the tissues of your legs as you start to send the ball of the heel away and become still, sending the ball of the heel away. Keep the lower front ribs from descending. And on an inhalation, come forward to Palakasana, plank pose. On an exhalation, float your knees to the floor, keep your toes tucked under. On an inhale, get a sense of floating the right hand back toward the right hip while being very stable at the left shoulder. Take the arm forward, there's a little flexion in the left elbow, keep the elbow drawn in, ground the right elbow, aligning it with the top of the left fingertips. Turn the right palm down. Same, stable right shoulder, scoop the left arm back, loop it forward, ground the elbow, turn the palm down. Be mindful of how your spine is now formed. On an inhalation, draw your pubic bone towards your navel, float the pelvis forward, lengthening through both sides of the spine to the tips of the ears, and then exhale, release your toes behind. 2 or 3 breaths here, wide collarbones, and feel a little engagement of consciousness at the upper pubic bone. Just lift towards the navel a little so the organs support the front spine a little. On an inhale, tuck your toes under. Coming back to praying mantis on an exhale, lift the armpits, ribs, inner groin. Then take the elbow to hand portion back, about 6 inches, ground, keep sending the pelvis back, identify the inner groins in your consciousness again as you integrate the shoulder joint, as the arms become long, send that message up to the inner groins, come back into downward facing dog. Wide collarbones, wide upper back. On an inhalation, lift up your right leg. Take your right leg back, toes pointing down, level pelvis. Exhale, bring your right knee towards the right chest, lifting the chest, lifting up into the armpit. Inhale, send that right heel back again. So as you send the right heel away, send the top of the left thigh bone away. Then bend the right knee and open the right side. Lengthen from your left armpit to the top of the left thigh bone. On an exhalation, keeping the pelvis high, bring the knee back around,
toward the right chest. Inhale, take the leg back, and on an exhalation, step forward. Rock backwards and forwards on an inhalation. And on an exhale, launch off your back foot, fold forward. Inhale, flex your knees, lengthen through your front spine, take your arms all the way out and up. On an exhalation, flex your knees, come into Utkatasana. Press down to rise up, inhale. On an exhalation, float the arms out and let the hands float up to the heart space. Take a breath or two. On your next exhalation, send the hands forward, roll out through your wrists. Inhale all the way out and up. Exhale, flex your elbows, knees and hips. Fold forward, lift back and up through the inner groins. Fingers touch down. Inhale, flex your knees. Lengthen front spine. On the exhalation, once again, step this time the left leg back, gathering your blocks. Those of you who don't have blocks, do stay up at minimum fingertip height rather than coming down and rounding as shown before. Find that stability. Check into your left foot, right big toe, right heel, right little toe. Then inhale, crouching tiger, bring your hands up. Crouching tiger's auspicious claws. Exhale, send the hands forward. Keep this knee aligned. In. On the exhalation, send the palms away. On an inhalation, scoot the hands behind towards the kidneys, reach up. Exhale, find that buoyancy. Like a great boat on the ocean, stable, buoyant, even keel. On an exhalation now, from this position, draw your elbows to shoulder height, palms to face each other, fold forward, move your blocks, ground your hands, bend your left knee, keep your left knee bent as you send your right leg back behind the line, step the right foot behind the line of the left, step the left foot back to meet it, and just grow into your downward facing dog. No force, just exploring space and length. Just release here. Not so far forward. On an inhalation, come forward to Balakasana. On an exhalation, float your knees to the floor. And this time, either take praying mantis leading with the left arm, or Ashtanga Mudra, pressing the hands down, floating the chest down a few inches from the floor, collarbones wide. Then leading again with the pubic bone, come forward, cobra pose. Exhale, release your toes behind. On an inhalation, tuck your toes under. Now lead with the inner groins again. Lift the pelvis, take the inner groins back. Lengthen through your waist. Lift the inner groins. Come into downward facing dog once again. Lift your left leg up. Send it back. Press away through the heel. Exhale, bringing your left knee forward, all the way forward. Lift up through the armpits, lift the ribs. Inhale, send the left heel back, level pelvis, keep lengthening from the right hand to the top of the right thigh bone. Then bend your left knee, open the left hip. Lengthen. Again, right hand to right hip, left hand to left knee. On an exhalation, level pelvis, bring the knee forward. Inhale, take the leg back. And on an exhalation, step. Inhale, rock backwards.
When you're ready, on an exhalation, step forward. Full. Inhale, flex your knees, lengthen front spine, press down to come up. As you exhale, part your hands, come to Utkatasana. This time, inhale, rise, and on the exhalation, once again, come back and down. Send the sitting bones, inner groins, and the top of the shins slightly back. Keep lengthening through the front spine. Feet parallel. Inhale, press down to come up. Exhale, open your wings. And bring your hands to the heart space. And notice, release. Step to Tadasana. The breath calm. Ankles to wrist distance, or just a little less perhaps. All right. Bring your hands to the tops of your legs, not so much the hips, so much as the top of the leg. Then be aware of your right leg from the top of the leg to the heel. So take your right hand behind, then lift up your right heel, and just move the right heel, swivel on the ball of the big toe, and take your right heel away a couple of centimeters. Then looking down your left leg, this point, turn as you flex the knee, spin on the ball of the left heel, and turn your left foot out 80 degrees, not 90, 80 degrees. Then ground the forefoot. Flex the left knee deeper and lift up the left heel, and then draw the left heel inwards, so now your foot is aligned. So we're looking for an alignment of left heel to inner right ankle. Even arch for some people. Notice the angle of your pelvis naturally as you engage from your feet through your legs to find that stability, sending the top of the left shin a little further forward, letting the top of the left thigh bone descend a little deeper. Keeping the shoulders above hips, loop the hands behind towards the kidneys, and externally rotate at your shoulders as you open your arms out to the sides. Now here, be mindful to keep the shoulder blades wide open across the upper back, so we don't take the hands behind. Then looking down your right arm, turn the palm to face down, so we keep the external rotation in the shoulder. We just let this beautiful spiral of the radius and the ulna here to the palms down. Then look down your left arm. Warrior looks both behind and in front. And here also in the middle, looking this direction. Turn your palms to face up. Straighten from the left heel. Straighten your left leg, lengthen your arms. Then, as you exhale, float the arms down. Turn the left foot in, bend the right knee, and then step in, lightly. Okay, step out, other side. Again, same distance apart. Wrists, hands to tops of legs. Bring your left hand behind the top of the left leg. Lift up your left heel a little, and then spin the whole leg about 5 degrees. Then take your right hand to the inner right thigh, lift the right forefoot, spin the whole leg 80 degrees. Then ground at the right forefoot, lift up your right heel, flex deeply at the right knee and the right hip, and then draw the heel in, feeling that that movement is coming from here. And then ground from the top of the thigh bone, and the heel follows and ground. Feel that foundation now. Shoulders above hips. Top of the shin moves forward, top of the thigh bone descends for increased work in the leg. Inhale, loop the hands back. Externally rotating the shoulder. And open the arms out, palms up. Auspicious claw in the hands. Again, keep the space across the upper back. Lower front ribs, just draw the lower front ribs in little and let the kidneys have breathing space. Looking down your long left arm, turn the palm to face down from the elbow, and then look down the right arm and do the same. Turn, that beautiful little dance of the lower arm bones and the wrist. And then, looking towards this direction, into the direction of the breastbone, turn the palms to face up once again. Then inhale from the right heel, lengthen, reach. Exhale, bring your hands down. Turn the right foot in, bend the left knee, step and step. Turn around, all fours on your mat. And once more. And finally, from the all four position, tuck your toes under. And once again, send the inner groins back, back again, being mindful of the behavior at your lumbar spine. Then lift the inner groins back up into downward facing dog. Press the ball of the heel away off the back end of your yoga mat. Just press away through the ball of the heel. Send the sitting bones up. Lengthen through your waist. And inhale, come to all fours. On the exhalation, slide the hands back towards you. Rest the hands at the tops of the thighs. And just notice. Come over onto your backs. Place a blanket, or keep the blankets at the top end of your mat, ready to be used. So just pop a blanket at the top end, Marta, here. Just ready here, don't need it yet. Lie down, knees bent. Just come down onto your mat, Marta. Come this way. Arms alongside. Thigh bones parallel, feet grounded, hip joint distance apart. Back of the neck is long. Okay, so I'm going to take this out just at the beginning. On an inhalation, take your arms up and over the top. Again, palms to face each other. On an exhalation, ground through your feet. Return the arms alongside to the ground as you raise your hips. Raising the hips as you exhale. Then inhale, bring the arms up and over the top. Again, on the exhalation, raise your hips as you return the arms down alongside. Keep your feet grounded. Good. Continue. Follow your breath. As you keep your thigh bones parallel, notice if your knees wish to move away from each other or towards each other during the movement. Can we sustain this alignment of knee towards second or middle toe of your 2 feet? As you rise up with your pelvis, do you need to retrovert your pelvis a little to keep length through your lumbar spine? In other words, would you, as you raise your pelvis, do you notice whether drawing your pubic bone towards your navel a little and your pelvis tilting back, does this give you more ease and space? Please don't go to the extreme of that exploration. It's a small movement as you move up on the exhalation. 2 more breaths. Keep the jaws relaxed. And then the next time your arms come alongside, keep the hips up, bring the arms alongside, and bring your elbows to the ground. Draw the elbows in towards you. A little more, so they're more alongside. That's it. Then, just feel the foundation from shoulder to elbow, from heel of foot to big toe. Feel that little bit of action that might be necessary as a retroversion of the pelvis to keep the length of the spine. Now, float your hands underneath you. Mesh your fingers together. Draw the knuckles towards the inner heels. As you press into your heels, can we take the top of the shin back towards you a little and let that movement be received in the thoracic region, the upper region of your spine. Take your chin 1 millimeter or 2 away from your breastbone, keeping a little bit of curve in the back of the neck. And when you're ready, feel free to stay for another couple of breaths if you feel this comfortable. Slowly, otherwise, release your fingers and allow your pelvis to quietly settle into the ground. Keep your knees bent for the moment, unless you feel, of course, the urge. If your body's asking you to take an alternative position, listen to your body, just as you might also listen to an external voice. Okay, from here, take your right thigh bone in towards you. Slip your right fingers into the crease behind your right knee. Take your left thigh bone in towards you. Slip your left fingers into the crease behind the left knee. Apanasana, inhale, thigh bones away to full arm's length. Begin your exhalation, draw your navel inwards, and then bring your thigh bones in towards you, hugging the elbows in towards the side waist and down towards the outer hips. Then, on an inhalation, let the thigh bones drift away once again. This time on the exhalation, bend the elbows out to the side, widen across your chest, widen from elbow crease to elbow crease. Inhale, take the thigh bones away to full arm's length. And this time on the exhalation, elbows toward outer hips, hugging alongside. Notice the slight difference in the way we apply our arms and how we notice that in our shoulders As we bend the elbows further out to the side, separating the inner elbow creases, separate the thigh bones a little bit more now. So the knees start heading toward the armpit. Again, varying the movement this time at the hip joint. So we've got varying movements at hip joint and shoulder joint in this simple practice of Apanasana. Keep the weight of the legs by holding at the fingers. And at this time, I will give you this blanket. Let's take that in. Yeah. And ditto. I'll take a blanket at this stage. Many of you will find that a blanket would be helpful underneath the head at this point. Good. And then this time, keep the knees in. And just breathe into the hips. Relax at the knees. All right, ground your feet. Press your feet down. Lift your hips up. Move your hips about 6 inches to the right. Ground your hips. Then bring your 2 thigh bones in towards you. Dorsiflex your ankles. Take your fingers to the tops of the shins. Draw the thigh bones in. Then on an inhalation, take the arms out to the sides, palms down to help engage with the ground. And then exhale, take your knees, keeping them up over to the left side. Now, if the right shoulder comes off the ground, then we raise the ground on the left side. So here, Marta can have a raised level. So important that, and so you can use either blocks or a bolster here, that we now allow this right arm to externally rotate at the shoulder, palm up, and release the right shoulder into the ground, breath by breath. Open this arm too. And then the neck here, we want to keep the neck in alignment with the rest of the spine. So if we turn and it goes off to one side, just bring the head back a little for this alignment. Keep giving away the right shoulder. Give the right shoulder to the ground. 3 or 4 more breaths here. Can we find another level of surrender? Can we give that right shoulder away even more? Turning the head to the center. Lift slowly the right knee towards the right hand towards the right knee. You gather the knee, draw the knee in, and as you roll the right hip down, let the left leg come with it. Then ground the feet. Realign the pelvis. Then press the feet down. If you're using blocks, blankets, or bolsters underneath the legs, then you would move them to the other side in readiness. Then press the feet down, lift the pelvis up, and move the pelvis to the left about 5 to 10 centimeters. Draw the thigh bones in towards you. Dorsiflex your ankles. Take your hands to the tops of your shins. Draw the thigh bones in. Keeping the dorsiflexion of the ankles, inhale, take the arms out, palms down. Use the ground with your hands, palms down, and use the ground. Then as you exhale, take the legs, keeping the knees up around navel or above, over to the right side. Then externally rotate at the shoulders for both arms so the palms face up. Once again, give your left shoulder to the ground. Give your left shoulder to the ground. Can we release even more? From the outset, or after a while, you might notice that additional bolsters or blankets might increase your ability to release. You'll notice here, especially if you notice there's a natural space between the knees, you can just rest the knee and the foot so there's a bolster in between. This really helps again. The aspect of this asana, Jatara Parivartanasana, the pose of the rotation at the belly, the twisting belly. We want to surrender, to release as much as possible. Is it possible to give that left shoulder away even more? To let your breath breeze around the corridors and chambers of your being with even greater ease. Last 3 or 4 breaths here. And as and when you feel ready, simply roll the weight of your head back to the center. Draw your left knee towards your left hand towards your left knee, slipping away any bolster or blankets between the legs. Roll onto your left hip, draw the right knee up, and then ground your feet. Realign yourself to the midline of your mat. And then once again, draw the thigh bones in towards you. Inhale, thigh bones away to full arm's length. Begin your exhalation, draw your navel in, bring your thigh bones in, dorsiflex your ankles, take your elbows out to the sides, and then inhale once again, repeat. This time again, take your elbows out to the sides, draw your thigh bones in, lift your chest, head, and shoulders towards the inner knees, just a few inches. Inhale, lower the head, take the thigh bones away to full arm's length. As you exhale, draw the elbows out to the sides, away from each other, draw the thigh bones in, lift the chest, lift the head. Stay for the pause. Then inhale, bring the head and shoulders down. Take the thigh bones away to full arm's length. Feel free to keep the head and shoulders on the ground if you'd rather. Exhale, thigh bones come in, engaging deep in the abdomen and the pelvic floor. Then float the heart, chest, shoulders up. Then inhale, come down. Lower your feet to the floor. Rest your hands on your belly. And just notice the rising and falling of the belly as it softens as you breathe. Release yourself into Shavasana. Do you need a blanket or a bolster? Slip it over. Gathering any other items, any other yoga props or non-yoga props that you find are supportive to your comfort, to your temperature, comfortable temperature, comfortable supported body. And just allowing, once again, your body to surrender. Exploring your joints, shoulders and hips in particular. Invite a softening. And let that softening ooze down into the elbows, the wrists, the hands and the fingers, the knees and the ankles, and the 66 joints of the feet. Relax your jaws. Soften your tongue. Let your eyeballs sink back and down. Feel the skin on your face melting into softness. Allow the softening. As the breath becomes quiet and calm, just notice its comings and goings, the risings and fallings. The pauses in between. Is there yet another layer of softness that you can unravel? Melt into the earth. Allow your awareness to come back to your breath. And just take a few breaths now, more consciously. Just adding just a little bit of length and volume to your breath. As if your breath is your awakening tool. A nice way to wake up in the mornings is to immediately bring your awareness to your breathing. And just be with your breath for a few moments. When you're ready, roll over to one side. Relax there for a moment. And then slowly come around to stand up. Be mindful about how you make this journey. And come and stand in Tadasana. And notice. How do you feel right now? On an inhalation, take the arms out and up. Let your hands find each other. And on your exhalation, float the hands down to the heart space. Bow the head to the heart. Invite the qualities of heart to rise up and infuse your mind. Namaste. Thank you.